Okay, everyone, good afternoon. Welcome to the Entrepreneur's Mindset Deconstructed, a virtual entrepreneur summit. And it's day 3. Yay! The person and the entrepreneur. The summit is brought to you in partnership with Bill Bronzeville and Greater Englewood CDC and supported by the Coleman Foundation and the Illinois SBDC Network. We're so honored to have you here. This session is being recorded and will be shared later. And who loves pleasant surprises? I think everyone does. Well, guess what? Some participants will be chosen to win headshots, branded gear for t shirts, and a 3-day pass at the Bronzeville Incubator, which I have the honor of sitting in. These are things that we know busy entrepreneurs like you could definitely use as you build the dynamic enterprises that you have. And so the winners will be chosen randomly and contacted at the end of the week. So make sure you stay tuned. You could be a winner. And let's dive into our session. This is again day 3 of our Entrepreneur Summit. I'm so honored to introduce you to today's speakers. And let you know what, I may not have said who I am. I apologize. I'm Rebecca Chauncey, a business advisor with the Illinois SBDC at Bill Bronzeville. And I am excited to share um, or introduce you to today's presenter and panelist. We have Audia Wells, who is a dynamic human resources expert, and she works with our partners at Greater Englewood CDC. And then our panelist today is the brilliant business owner, Astin Hayes, who owns TipOff game app. So, ladies, take it away.
Thank you so much, Rebecca. It is a pleasure. I'm so excited to talk with everyone today. I know we have some interactive polls and things of that nature. And so let's just jump right in. Hopefully everyone had an opportunity to go to the link that Rebecca sent out upon registration to be able to identify your Myers-Briggs type. And we'll just go right in and start talking about what that is and how we can better use that in our businesses. And so with the Myers-Briggs type guidelines, just a few reminders. You might have been surprised by some of the responses and answers that you received when you took the assessment. And so just want to remind you that no type is better than another. This isn't to identify the best types for entrepreneurship, but to better show you how to leverage your strengths to those that you may be working with vendors, customers, etc. And so there is generally one preference that is favored on your scales. They are all about choice. It is not something that you cannot strengthen or develop. And so we just want to be able to talk about these things so that you can do what you need to do to grow yourself professionally and personally. And again, no type is an excuse for bad behavior or bad business. So we just want to keep that in mind as well. So there are 4 temperaments that we're going to be talking about. And so those temperaments that we'll discuss are based on Dr. David Keirsey and his work around those temperaments, which are the artisan, the guardian, the idealist, and the rationalist. And so it's really about patterns of action, how we communicate, how we take in information, how we display our talents, our attitudes. So it's just an all-encompassing group of things that make us who we are. So that's our individual natures that define kind of which area we're going to fall into. And so if we're looking at these 4 temperaments, you might know people who are artisans if you're not one yourself, people who have audacity, they're bold, they're adaptable, they take artistic action. And you have guardians, they're reliable, service-oriented, respectability is important to them. You have your idealists. These might be your nonprofit sector folks. Empathy, benevolence, authenticity is important to them, how people feel. And then you have the rational. They're looking at being more autonomous. Willpower is important to them. Ingenuity is important to them. And so as we think about and learn about some of these different styles, just take into account again that we're not locked into these things, but these are descriptors of how we generally take in information and how we respond to the world around us. So your preferences, there are about 16 of them. So as you took the assessment, you got to see that there are some extremes. You have extroversion, introversion, sensing, intuition, thinking, feeling, judging, and perceiving. So one of the big misperceptions about being an introvert or extrovert, people think introverts just have no social skills whatsoever, right? They're just super shy. That tells someone that they're introvert. And it's quite the opposite. It's how we take in energy. So introversion and extroversion is about how we process energy. Sensing and intuition, how we process information, how we receive it, how it comes out of us, etc. And then thinking and feeling is about decisions, not necessarily the outcome of the decision, but how we process and how we come to that decision. And then there's a lifestyle, just how we believe, again, incoming and outgoing information and how we process our values and what that means in our life. So those are the various dichotomies that we'll be discussing going forward. So we talked about there being just a combination of all of these various styles and dichotomies. And so you have 16 of them in the various components. So I, for example, am an INTJ, the mastermind, heavy on the J. So you can identify, and I think, Rebecca, this might be a good time for the poll to find out what types other people are on the call. So you should see the poll pop up. What is your personality type? And based on your taking the assessment, or you may have taken it previously, and you can go from there. They usually don't change too much, but occasionally you might be an INFJ or something like that, thinking and feeling, you might be close to the edge. So but in general, they don't change too drastically. So we'll give you a minute for the poll.
Is that good, Audia, before I go to question 2, where there are 6 more personality types?
I think so. I'm not able to take the poll, so I'm not sure
Okay.
if everyone has done it. It should be quick though.
It looks like it. We've got, okay, I've got some more votes coming in.
Okay.
We'll give them 30 more seconds before I go to number 2.
Okay.
For the most part, it looks like the majority of our respondents are advocates, so INFJ, and we have a couple of protagonists. Oh, so the majority are the advocates. We
Mhm.
also have commanders in the room,
Mhm.
and a few, so ISFJ and a few ISTJ.
Okay, awesome.
Oh, you got that? Okay. And let me launch the next question. Oh, I'm sorry. Everybody answered. Never mind. I take that back. They saw all of the questions. Didn't realize that. Beautiful.
Okay.
We also have a number of entrepreneurs. So ESTP,
Mm-hmm.
we followed by ESFJ
Mm-hmm.
and sprinkles of ESTJ
Yeah.
and ESFP.
Okay.
Got it?
Got it.
Thank you, everyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing those. We're also using the Q&A. So if you have some questions that you would like to go over during the presentation, don't hesitate to put those in the Q&A box. I'm going to close out this poll. Awesome. And so was anybody surprised? Feel free to unmute yourself. Were there any learnings or surprises as you took the assessment, or had you just taken it before and it was still the same? I can't see anyone, so.
So far, no. They
Okay,
said no.
okay. So no surprises. Okay, perfect. So yeah, I've been taking those for about 20 years and it's been the same. So with the introversion, just to drill down again, this is how we draw energy from people. And I say we because I'm an introvert. It doesn't mean that we are not social in situations where we need to be, or that we're not great communicators. However, that depletes our energy. And so we have to regroup and re-energize, and we prefer to do that alone with time away from people. We love ideas and concepts, and again, what people tend to focus on is that the shyness, the being withdrawn. It may seem like we just prefer to be isolated, but that's really where we gain more energy and more strength in a more contemplative, detached environment, and then we can get back out there and do it all over again. The extroverts, however, they gain energy from people. They are around people. They affirm its importance. They rely on that level of stimulation to energize them, to be action oriented. I think that was why a lot of people had trouble with the pandemic and the isolation. It drove a lot of people crazy. There are a lot of extroverts who found that very hard, to be stifled, not to be around people. Meanwhile, the introverts we were loving it at the beginning. Now we're all sick of it. So we're all at the same place now. But there's a preference for people and things, and that just energizes you. So again, it doesn't have anything to do with your level of social interaction necessarily, but where you get your energy and how you feel after that energy is spent. So I just want to make sure that we understand that, so that as we're talking about recruitment or our teams that we're working, or working with clients or customers, that we have these correct concepts in our minds as we're building teams. The sensing, there's a immediate, they are focused on the present, right? And so they're looking at detail, the practical nature of things, what's in front of them, can it be seen, heard, and touched? They're very concrete and realistic. So that's what the S is in the sensing. Whereas the more intuitive folks, they are thinking about theories and future orientation and possibilities and big pictures. This is me. I want to know what's possible. And then we can get down into the weeds after that. But I want to build a picture. I want to know what's behind things rather than the things themselves. So I would need to balance that out with someone who's a little bit more realistic and concrete. So intuition, you're looking at possibilities. So let's talk about a scenario. So a company, you could be the HR person in the company, or you can just be your company of one, but you're struggling and you have to lay off some people. How do you decide who stays and who goes? You can unmute or drop in the chat.
We got, you see in the chat, they're
Yeah.
making a note. Are they productive? Tenure? That's great.
Yes. So tenure, productivity. I know that was Derek Warren. Productivity, the hard worker stays. Yes, everybody wants the hard worker. Assess past productivity, work ethics, passion, and commitment. Okay. So I wonder which one of those folks are the commanders, the visionaries, or the nurturers, and how that answer colored that. Yes, I know you will. So most people looking at the company is struggling and that you have to lay off the workforce. Being in human resources, some of the other considerations are looking at your team, whether they're consultants, contractors, family members, interns, whoever's working with you to help you build your business. Do you have the right people in place to help balance what you are in terms of your personality assessment? So if I'm an INTJ, I'm an introvert by nature, I would want someone on my team to be out developing business, who enjoys that, who gets energy off of interacting with people, etc. And so maybe my issue isn't just that I'm not that the person isn't working hard, or my team isn't working hard, or we're not all working hard, but maybe we need someone who is stronger in the business development, who will get out there, talk to people, who love sales, and can do that role so that they're bringing in more business, so I don't have to lay off someone. So there's just, you don't go automatically to layoff, but that's just one example of how you can look at your strengths and then see, are there other areas in your team that you can strengthen or bring in that may offset your personality assessment so that you're a stronger team. Let me just check the comments really quickly. At work performance and integrity. And then how many same people do I have in these positions? Exactly. So if we're all the same, we're all INTJs or we're all ENTJs, we probably want to look and say, okay, here are some strengths for these particular roles. Do I need to be an extrovert to be an accountant? Probably not. And that's probably not what you're going to get with an accountant. They like to work by themselves a lot. Or IT people. Generally, they navigate towards not having to work with a lot of people, not all, but some. And so there's some job descriptions and job roles that fit individual people. I love compliance, being in human resources. So that judging and that thinking logically, that fits my temperament in general. And so we want to be able to look at what our strengths are in these assessments and then go forward from there. So the thinking, feeling, again, how do you make decisions? We're not talking about the outcome, but the process that you go through. So in the thinking, you're looking at things very logically. There's an impersonal cause and effect. So you're not attributing anything, you're not tying things together automatically. And there's a certain level of objectivity and attention to justice and fairness that you want to pay attention to. You're looking to provide some type of order through logic, and then you're looking at weighing the evidence, sometimes which can be an unpleasant truth. And then there's a preference for decisions based on clear-cut principles, without regard for how the decisions will affect others. So you're just looking at the principles involved and not the feelings. So that's one aspect of that. Then you have the feeling, which is really just the opposite. You're going to weigh the relative values and merits. So some of those nurturers and advocates, they will probably fall in these feeling roles. So advocate is an INFJ, and the visionaries have F as well. So they're more subjectively attuned to others' values, the human aspects of problems, their need for affiliation and harmony. You know, they hate conflict. They look to what's important for the people involved, and then they decide how much investment you have on each alternative. So again, if we're using our previous example, when we have to maybe terminate some people because our business is not doing well, there may be some alternatives to terminating people. And these are the people that will probably look at those alternatives before doing something that will negatively impact the person. They prefer decision based on values, paying attention to how people will be affected by these decisions, and put an emphasis on relationships. So this is very good for entrepreneurs in that the relationships is your net worth. So you want to make sure that you protect those and develop those at all costs, customers, employees, etc. So very important for entrepreneurs to identify these two areas in themselves, and then to be able to leverage that, because you'll have to have some people that are heavier on the thinking as well as on the feeling, so that you can balance out these critical decisions that you'll be making as an entrepreneur. And then you have judging. So business before pleasure, organize events. They want to get things settled and wrapped up. They want accomplishment. So that's important to people. So they may be very task oriented, so they can see the accomplishment of what they're doing. Like, they hate to do work that goes nowhere and just dies. They want to finish a project before starting the next. I'm a big J person. Then you have perceiving. So they're more flexible, spontaneous. They want to understand life rather than control it. You can have several projects going at the same time. So this is someone that is great at multitasking. They're not bothered if the project gets put on hold. You know, they won't be the ones to say, all that work, all those hours and nothing. It doesn't really even faze them. They're like, okay, on to the next. Very adaptable. So they're focusing on experience, what experience they're having. So I thought that at this time, oops, we went too far, we could have Astin share her experience with having, with using the personality assessment and how it has helped her in her business.
Hello, everyone. Hi, Audia. So I don't know if you have any specific questions, but I guess I can start by saying what my assessment from the 16 personality ended up being. I was a protagonist, so that's the ENFJ, and I found it to be like hit it on the head as far as me being very extroverted. My day job that I have is in sales, so. And then I just feel like anybody that is a entrepreneur, you're automatically kind of in sales because nobody can pitch your idea better than you can. So I'm sure for people that are extroverts, that may present a challenge depending on where, like you said, where they're getting their energy from. It's not that they can't present in front of people or they don't like to, but I'm usually able to sell much better in front of an audience when I can feel energy and see people's, emotional, their emotions and their facial expressions and things of that nature, versus being only on the phone and hearing their voice and not being able to pick up on how they feel. obviously, since what my company is a game, I do games. Fun is all about being in person and getting energy and getting people to have good, fun energy.
Mm-hmm.
So extroversion, I got I think 78% on that. So clearly I'm way over on that end. Intuitive, I got 73. So I definitely feel like I'm a big picture person, and I'm definitely like, let's get to the end goal. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Whereas my business partner, I'm a co-founder, my business partner, she's more of a sensing person. So we kind of balance out, and she definitely is an introvert too. So I feel like it was interested to see. I didn't have her take the test, and I probably should have before this, but just me taking the test, I can already see. I bet you Amanda is probably an introvert, and I bet you she's sensing, and I bet you she's the thinking one, because I'm definitely go with the feeling portion. But yeah, I felt like it hit head on with what I kind of thought it would be. Some of the things, I'm definitely am assertive, so that one was correct too. That was 85%. So I think that was the highest percentage I got on anything. And then the lowest was judging, which I kind of felt some kind of way about, and I guess you'll probably talk more about that later with the judging. I don't like the word judging because it has this negative connotation to it, but I guess once I kind of looked at the definition of what it is, I could see why it is. But that was my lowest score out of all of them.
So that's really interesting. Let's talk about that. So the definition of judging, why did that kind of rub you? Why did that stop you and give you pause?
I guess before I read what the definition in this, because just like you said, a lot of people, when they think of introversion, they think of somebody that's shy and somebody that doesn't like to deal with people. And then when you break down what the definition is based off the personality test, it's like, oh, okay, well, that's not really what that means. It just means I can give so much of my energy to people, and then I need to fall back and kind of take that all in and recharge myself. But I think a lot of people, when they hear introvert, they automatically go to like, oh, that's somebody that doesn't like to deal with people. They like to be by themselves. So judging, when I first saw judging, I was like, I took it as like judgmental, like I'm judging people, or I'm constantly like, oh, pointing my fingers kind of thing. And then when it's like, no, you're kind of looking at all sides of the story and like taking it in and creating a picture or a story. So I was like, okay, I'm cool with that. I can deal with that. But I was like, I don't want to be judgmental. That's how I took it at first.
Absolutely. I think, again, just really understanding what those dichotomies really mean, then we can look at ourselves and say, okay, that sounds weird. I don't want to be judgmental, because that's what anybody would think, right? That's how we use that word. But when you look at it, that they're looking at the facts and trying to make a picture of what is presented in front of them versus kind of pie in the sky, information and what that means for them. Then it's a little more accepting. It's a little, you can say, okay, well, yeah, I kind of do that a little bit. And so with these new learnings or realizations, how would you use this assessment with your customers, client base? What are your thoughts on that?
I think, taking it all in, because I do a lot of selling of the product and have to put the app in front of a lot of people. I think it helps with social media. I think it also helps with tailoring your customer base, and then tailoring how we deal with our customer base. So, just because I'm assertive, I'm dealing with a game. I have a game, so I don't want to be, super serious and salesy and things. I need to be fun and lighthearted, definitely extroverted, and probably more the feeling side. Maybe not as, I guess, intuitive in a way, but probably not as judgy either. So just being able to see how I should tailor the way I deal with my customers, and then tailor maybe how my customers, what kind of customers kind of deal with the app. As far and the employees that I have, my coworkers and everyone that's on my board, what kind of personalities do they have, and where can I adjust to help them, and vice versa. So I think that was a big thing. So we actually have a board meeting on Monday, and I was like, oh, this might be something good that I send out to them, and we can talk about that at the meeting, just how we can work better with each other. So I don't think it's always a customer thing. It might be, well, who's working in your business, and what kind of personalities do they have that I can adjust how I work with them, and vice versa.
That's awesome. And you just made me think of something that I just want to make sure I understood. So your personality assessment, or at least thinking about the different types, allows you to tailor your marketing for your customers and figure out how to attract more of
Right.
more of those individuals who will be interested in buying your product specifically.
Right. Correct.
That's awesome. So sometimes, we'll come up with a great idea, but we don't know how to get it to the people that are going to be most receptive to it. And I think this is a great way to really start thinking and drilling down on how to tailor our marketing plan to those individuals who may fall in these categories, or to be able to design a marketing application to their business specific to these individuals. So far we have teaching and training, food service, restaurant business. If there are other businesses in the, please drop them in the chat. We'll be asking some questions momentarily about how you intend to use the personality assessment that you took. What's interesting, I think, with this assessment, you can have your whole team take it. So you mentioned maybe having your business partner take it, so you all can talk about your business model, your plans, your strategic plan and vision for the company together using these assessments. Have you had a chance to think about it in terms of recruitment for staffing?
I haven't, but I definitely would. Like right now, we're looking for interns for the summer. So taking this in would be a great, opportunity to kind of better see what's going on, especially when, like you said, with recruitment, you don't know the person at all. So you kind of need something to drill down to get a better idea, like, oh, will this group work well together? Let me see if I can get a mix of introverts, extroverts, and sensors, and people with intuition, so that you're not top heavy in one area and turning into kind of a group think situation where you're not getting a lot of different ideas. And that's really one of the reasons why I like having interns or younger people. Clearly, I'm not in my 20s or teens anymore, so a lot of the ideas that they have and things they can bring to the table help my business. Some people are threatened by that. Some people don't like dealing with younger people because they feel like, they know information that they don't, and that's threatening to them. But I think that's a benefit to my company at the end of the day. And, and the same way with being able to mix up different personalities, you want that in order to look at something in a different light.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that, because we're in an age, unprecedented age, actually, where we have so many different generations, like the most generations in the workforce at one time. And so again, to your point, there's new skills, new technologies, new ways of thinking about things that we can incorporate in our businesses. And they are developing and learning about their personalities, particularly, the younger you are, you're trying to figure this thing out called work and called life. And so in being able to provide some type of conversation, or to be able to look at your team to say, hey, where am I weak, or where could we leverage these strengths in our organization, and what does that mean for us? That's invaluable. So in the chat, We have a songwriter, business advisors, we have a restaurateur, trainer, and multimedia services, so more creative services. So I just want to open the floor or the chat, Q&A, however we're doing it, for those entrepreneurs to be able to ask any questions of Astin in terms of her using the personality assessments. And then I know that we have Chef Fury is one of our participants, and I just want to find out from him, hear his thoughts about his personality assessment and how he sees himself using that in his work of training.
Well, I consider myself an introvert, and I would like to be an extrovert, but I'm a little bit hesitant because I know being out in front a lot of the times is not my personality. So in my business, I need to recruit trainees. So I need a mix of all kinds. So I need to be able to deal with all kinds of personalities. Do you have any advice so that I don't basically use my personality against myself in the way I want to say teach them or judge them? I don't want to be judgmental as well. So what advice could you give me?
That's a great question. Astin, do you have any insight you'd like to share?
What was the end of the question? I'm sorry.
Well, I was saying that because I will have a mix of trainees, I'm assuming I'll have a mix of personalities. So I don't want to so-called bind myself with the introverts and exclude the extroverts because I'm not one of them. So what advice could you give me? I'd like to try to be more extroverted. People kind of think that I am, but like you say, I'm the opposite. I get all my energy by meditating and relaxing at nighttime so that I have energy in the morning to do the things I need to do. But it is a grind trying to be out in front. So that's why I like being in the back. If I had my choice, I would just cook and send the food out. Nobody would ever know who I am. But everyone thinks that everybody wants to be a chef like Gordon or Emerald and be out in front. So I have to deal with the personality that people think I am as opposed to the way that I think I am. So what advice could you give me in dealing with a multitude of personalities so that I don't, so to speak, exclude the people that are not like me?
All right. Well, I think the fact that you know yourself well and you know what it is you need to do to center yourself is step one, because there's so many introverts that I meet or other people meet, and they have no idea those people are introverts. The introverts know they're introverts when they go home and they're like, "Ooh, okay, I need to, relax and, do whatever it is I need to do to center myself." But out in the public, Chef Gordon Ramsay could, as far as we know, could be an introvert, and we just don't know that. He turns it on for television, and that's what he's given us. I mean, at the end of the day, that's all social media really is. We're only seeing a small glimpse of somebody's life, and they can look like they're in love with somebody. They can look like they love their job. They can look like they're on vacation having a ball, and that might not actually be the case. So I think, doing what you're doing, coming out in front of people, and I don't want to say playing the role, but playing the role when you need to, and then stepping back when you need to recharge is really all you can do. But definitely don't hide behind your food. I mean, I'm sure it's good enough that you don't have to show your face, but you want to brand yourself. You want people to know who you are. And, I try to find balance, because a lot of people want to push me and make me the face of my game. And I was like, well, nobody knows when you play a game from Mattel or any of those companies who's making that game, who's the CEO of Mattel or Hasbro or anything like that. So I'm like, I don't really want my face out in front like that. But I know I'm a small business. I'm not Hasbro and I'm not Mattel. So I have to kind of approach it in a different way. But I think you're doing the right thing. You come out front when you need to, and then you take your breaks when you need to.
Awesome. Thank you, Astin. And Chef Fury, I think one way, a couple things. The judgment, we have to remember that it's not judgmental the way we are used to using that word. That the judgment aspect of the personality assessment is that we like very finite things. We like to finish things that we start. We like to work with what is in front of us versus the esoteric, theoretical things. We want practical. And from what I know about you, like, you want to give people the real deal of what happens in these kitchens and how to be a great chef and what that really means versus what we see on TV. And so that judging isn't a negative. It is just how you perceive your task, your role, what's actual versus what's out there, what's possible. So we just want to make sure that people remember that the judging isn't how we usually use that word. And then one great way to help people know who you really are is to have your team take the assessment. So we shared this assessment that's free. Of course, there are versions that are paid, and they have these very expensive consultants that can come and do teamwork building activities and really break it down for you specifically for your team. But you can just have people take the assessment for free, just so you can have a common language and people can really understand how you operate as a person, so that there is no misunderstanding. So if I know that Chef Fury is an introvert, then I can say, you know what, we just had this whole event that we just did. Probably not a good time at the end of the event to ask him for something. I might want to wait till he has had a chance, maybe tomorrow, to regroup, to recharge, and start any difficult conversations with him the next day. So those are the little nuances, and we can all have that same language and communication so that we understand how to have the timing of difficult conversations, the timing to do certain meetings, how things will come across so that I'm not making up a story myself about someone's intentions. I can say, oh, that person is a judging person, so they're dealing with the facts, and I'm trying to explain to them a whole vision and the possibility, and we could do this and we could do that, and they keep shooting me down. It's not personal, it's personality. So that way we don't create these stories. So I hope that answered your question. I think another thing that I thought of for those of us who are introverts is that we can do things to get us a little more comfortable if the issue is a little more shy or you want to be in the shadows. There's things like Toastmasters. They help you to put yourself out there a little bit more than you normally would. So those types of professional and personal development tools, we can take advantage of, again, so that we can use them when we need to, but it doesn't have to change the nature of who we are. It just makes us better adaptable to the needs that we might have. So there was a question in the Q&A. Astin, why did you start your business?
Let me unmute. I started my business. I graduated from University of Miami in 2006, moved back home with my mom, had the summer off just to kind of, I guess, regroup and figure out if I was going to go to grad school or get into the job market. Decided because of the economy at the time to just go back to grad school. But over that summer, I had a lot of time on my hands. So I had created these physical cards because I like taboo a lot. And at that time, I just called it Black Taboo. And it was just some cards in this bag. I still have the Ziploc bag with the cards that I went to Kinko's, cut them out, and would take them to parties, or people would come over my mom's house for barbecues or, you know, holiday parties, and we would play the game, and everyone always had so much fun that they were like, you got to make this into a real game, like make it into a real game. But I was so young at the time that I really didn't have like a mentor, anybody to give me any insight as to what the next step was. Like, how could I legally make this happen? How do I find the capital to get it off the ground? And so I kind of sat on it for a while until I ran into my co-founder, my business partner, back in 2016. So like 10 years later, dream deferred. And I told her, I was like, I have this idea. I've always wanted to make my card game into an app, because I feel like that's the wave of the future. Like that's the direction everyone's going in. And I don't want to have to make cards every time I come up with new ideas. And she loved the idea. And instead of her just consulting me, she's like, well, why don't we just go into business together, do it together? I was like, all right, sounds good. And here we are now. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much. There was another question in the Q&A about hiring people with opposite or complementary personalities. So for an introvert to hire an extrovert to be in the foreground when they need to decompress. That's always a great idea. Being a small business, you may not be able to hire people, but I think that as an individual and as an entrepreneur, we should always have our own personal board of directors, right? You have your 5 friends, your closest friends in your personal life who will be honest with you, who'll give you honest feedback, who love you and have your best interest at heart. These are the individuals that you seek advice, etc. from. And so you can do the same thing with your business. So if there are your unofficial advisors, if you will, people who are trusted, your mentors, your mentees, you can learn up as well as down, and discuss things that, you know, with people that you trust. If you are not able to hire people, to be able to be a sounding board. But if you can hire people or contract with people who can offset or complement your particular personality style to grow your business or to advance your business, then take advantage of that opportunity. Definitely when you're hiring, you don't want everyone to have the same personalities as you do, because your customers and clients will not have the same personalities as you do. And so it just allows for more creativity. It increases business. It's what you would consider this diversity conversation, right? So the big conversation now is diversity, looking at different people from different backgrounds, different cultures, being able to magnify your business in that marketplace, to also attract more customers in those particular communities. And so this personality assessment is no different. There are 16 different types of personalities. And so we can magnify our business by reaching out to those various groups in different ways. And so our team becomes stronger as we're more diverse. We have different ideas, different ways of doing things, and therefore we can have bigger pictures and more thorough discussions about our business and our marketplace, our customers, etc. And so that's my 2 cents on that. Any more questions for Astin or myself? I don't see any in the Q&A, but. So let me finish sharing the last couple slides that we had. So we left off on perceiving. And then I just had one more slide that really we can share out because it's a little small, but it divides the personalities up by temperament. So you can kind of drill down all the way to the half that are observant, then the other half that are introspective, the rational, the idealist, and work your way around so you can see how the different personalities types might offset or might complement one another. And so as you look at your team and the people you work with or your customers, you're able to have a sense using this guide as to, okay, where are we landing? Do we have a lot of people in this area on my team in this one area? As we think about recruiting or expanding, maybe we need to offset some of these other skills to complement what we have on the team already, or maybe we're just too top heavy in a certain area and we need to leverage something different to be able to grow. So this is a really helpful kind of wheel to be able to look and review and see, you know, who you're working with both internally and externally to be able to flesh out further your team, your clients, and customers. And so we had one more just kind of question, and we'll just do it really quickly. Sonia works as an editor for a publishing company. She enjoys some aspects of her work, but has difficulties with others. On the MBTI, she is a ENFP, so extrovert, intuitive, feeling, perceiving. How is knowing this information helpful in looking at Sonia? What might she enjoy and what might she struggle? And are there ways to modify her work to play to her strengths and preferences? So you can drop your answers in the chat, or you can unmute and speak to what your thoughts are on that. So she's an ENFP. She works for a publishing company. She's an editor, so she's working alone, sometimes reading a lot of manuscripts. But where might she struggle?
Can I jump in real quick?
Absolutely.
I would think if she's working alone often and she's an introvert, that would probably be the first and foremost, is having some time for her to have face-to-face contact with either people on her team or clients or whatever it might be.
I love that. So she already she coded as an extrovert, but she's doing a job that basically she does all day, every day by herself. And so maybe there's team meetings that she bounces ideas off of people, get their feedback on the next book or manuscript that she's reviewing. So awesome. So she should work in the public and share with her team so she doesn't come off bossing as well. Awesome. Anything else? Are there ways to modify her work to play to her strengths and preferences? So she's a feeler, but a role of an editor is to correct people's babies, their writings, the things that they develop and create. And for those creators, you know, sometimes we don't take criticism well. So how is this a strength that she's a feeler?
I will add an answer, Audia.
Yes.
It's Rebecca. So I think one of the main things is that she's going to be because of her personality, she will be very mindful of how she shares those edits. It won't be like, you know, your writing is atrocious. Instead, it will say, have you considered doing this or using this phrase instead of that phrase?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that. Being able to phrase the same statement in a way that someone else could receive it because you're sharing your values. So that feeling, she's not going to mark everything up in red and hand it back to them. She's going to, you know, do a preface. She's going to make it a little smoother. She's going to establish and keep the relationship that's important to her. And so any other places where she might struggle?
I have a question about the last statement.
Yes.
So this is Chef Daryl. So you modify your answer based on who the personality of the person you're talking to. How do you maintain I want to say being consistent. If you're basically changing for, so if I have trainees, I don't want to call it sugarcoating, but how do I deal with all of them the same without seeming like I'm being, I want to say favoritism because of the way I want to say giving the message to them?
That's a great question. My initial thoughts about that would be, is the outcome the same? So when we're talking about being fair and just and compliant or any of those other words, we're looking at outcomes. So if something is done incorrectly, your outcome wants to be correction, right, and training. How you go about doing that so that the person receives it is the more important part. So if one of your students is a feeler and you know you're not going to deliver the message, or you're just going to take into consideration that this person is a feeler, so I'm going to be gentle. And I love Rebecca's example. Have you considered, or another way to do this is like this. So you're very hands-on. If you're teaching someone how to cook and create art, they may see it as art and you may see it as garbage. So your way of correcting and training might be just slightly modified, but the outcome is the same: for them to receive your message, learn from your wisdom, and maintain the relationship. And so it might look a little different, but as long as the outcome is the same and your effort is the same with everyone, then I think you're in a safe space. Does anyone else have any thoughts about that?
Thank you so much on that. I appreciate that. I have to work on my poker face and I have to work on my voice so that I'm not giving it away how I really feel on the inside. Thank you.
We got a class for that. We can help you. Awesome. This was a great example, and thank you for that. We're at time, so I just want to remind you that we have so many great services to offer, both at Build Bronzeville and the Greater Inglewood Community Development Corporation, being both the small business development centers in your areas. So we're here to serve and to help. And I just thank you for joining us today and for participating. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us with the shared information, and we can share this information with you.
Thanks, Audia and Astin, for your brilliance and for all of the participants. And we hope that you'll continue to join us for the rest of our week. The Entrepreneur Summit continues tomorrow and Friday. So we hope to see you. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great week.